This is a quick lesson for you on marking up wood and how to do it. So let's just say I wanted to cut this piece of wood at 200 millimeters or 20 centimeters. I put my ruler lined up with the left-hand edge of the piece of wood, and then I use my pencil, and you see the lines on the ruler. Your line should be the same direction as that line, so you just continue the line on just a little bit. We don't want marks like this, because it's not accurate and the line itself is too thick, and to remove these afterwards is really hard. So we go super light with the pencil and a tiny little mark there. Now then, I move my ruler out of the way. I now need to draw this line all the way across here. So for that, I need a set square or a combination square, and I put the set square up against, in fact I'll do it this way so you can see it, up against the piece of wood and lined up with the little line I made earlier. Now we hold everything tight, we get our pencil and we draw a nice light line going down the piece of wood like this. And that gives me now a 90-degree line that I can use to saw to or drill on whatever I'm trying to do. Really good little useful trick on how to do it. Now, say that we wanted to mark in the middle of this piece of wood here. We could measure in with a ruler and make a little mark here, but we could also use our combination square as well. So I know this is 40 millimeters wide, so I'm just going to set my combination square at 20 millimeters like this. Then all I need to do is hold my combination square like this, use my pencil and just make a tiny little mark like that. And there you go. Now we've got the center point of our piece of wood. Just want to cover work holding. It's a really, really important part of woodwork. If you've got some kind of woodworking vise like this one here, always use that for your woodwork. If you don't have one of these though, that's okay. It doesn't mean you can't do stuff, but you do need to make sure that your workpieces are secured down. Now you could use something like a Black & Decker workbench, although they do rock around a lot. But there's some other options too, and I want to show you those now. So if you're using a vise, obviously you open the vise, put the wood in and hold it. Let's move on to other options. So some simple work holding tips for you. If you're sawing wood, then you've got to stop the wood from moving around whilst you're sawing. Really simple way to do it is just get a scrap bit of wood like this, 2 screws to hold it in position near the edge of a bench. Then you can put your wood up against this and saw away like this over the edge. It's a really simple way for having some kind of a work holding for doing sawing. So that's one solution. Another solution, of course, is to use your quick clamps. Now, if you want to use a quick clamp to hold a piece of wood, you just put it underneath the bench like this, pull the handles tight, and away you go. Now you'll probably find this will move a little bit, so you have to hold it as well. If you've got 2 clamps, then great, you can put another one here to hold onto it as well. But that's a really, really good idea for when you're doing sawing. Now when you're using other tools like rasps and things like that, the clamps themselves will get in the way, but you can just work one little edge at a time like this and then move it up and keep moving it around with your clamps. It's not ideal. It's much easier to do it in a vise, of which there are many, many types of vices, but just using a simple clamp can get you where you need to be. Now before I finish on work holding, I'm just going to take this clamp off here and get my rasp. Some work holding ideas for you. So first of all, you always need some kind of bench to work on, somewhere to work on, and that's really important. Once you've got that though, just literally screwing a piece of wood to a bench like this will give you something to push a piece of wood up against so that you can saw the edge off like this. This works really, really well. So I use this all the time in my workshop just for setting up somewhere to saw really quickly. Next then, when you're using tools like a rasp or a coping saw, you do need to hold it in position. Of course, a simple clamp will help you do that. Put it underneath the bench, pull the handles tight, and that will hold it in position. You may need 2, but again, it works really, really well. And then finally, an option that we've got here is this little tool here called a bench hook. This is just a piece of wood with 1 bit screwed in here and 1 bit screwed in here. You can put it onto the edge of your bench like this, put your wood up against it and saw away like this. Again, a really, really useful tool that I use all the time in the workshop. And finally, I do want to say that don't forget, you can just hold things in your hands. or using your body weight. So if I wanted to rasp the edge of this piece of wood here, I can just hold it in my hands and go to town with the rasp. I can even lean on it like this to stop it moving, and again go to town with the rasp. The same with sanding. You can often do that just holding the piece of wood in your hands and sanding away. You don't necessarily need to hold it down. But make sure when you're doing any kind of sawing that the wood is properly secure and that you're safe, because that's what matters most.